Business models that could replace your 9-to-5 full course tutorial. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm excited to have you here. It's going to be a long video. So the first thing I want you to do is grab a cup of tea, a coffee, pen and paper, sit down with no distractions because I want you to take on board and really absorb everything that I'm saying. And at the end of this video, actually go and do it because that's where the change happens. Now, the purpose of this video is I want you to fully understand how possible and simplistic it actually is to replace an average salaried job of £1,500 to say £3,000 a month working 40 hours a week. Now we have been told over years and years and years throughout the school system and then actually going into the employed world that you need to work for someone else and aim for a good retirement. Nonsense. Employers will not like me making this video because by the end of this full course tutorial, you will realize how simplistic it is to replace a job where you can literally fire your boss, shut the laptop and work on your business from home and design a life that you and your family truly want. And this is what I'm going to expose in today's video. Honestly, you will have light bulb moments going off going, why have I been given the most precious asset, my time, to someone else when I didn't realize how accessible it was to build my own business? And that's the luxury of the world that we live in. So buckle up because there's so much information in this video. Now let's talk about the most common question I'm asked, which again is why I chose to do this video. Aaron, I want to escape my job. Aaron, I'd love to start a business. I want more money. I want to escape the situation that I'm in and I don't really want to work for someone else, but I have no idea what personal brand or business to start. I'm confused. I'm letting all this information come into my ecosystem from social media and I'm being influenced by marketing adverts and all this kind of stuff. Well, let's bring it back to basics. Again, what's going to happen in this video? I'm going to teach you how to replace your salary, not make 10, 15, 20, £100,000 a month. We're not bothered about that. That's so far away. It's about replacing your salary. So it's about managing your money that you have already, getting rid of all the unwanted expenses and finding out your net number, which you need per month to live, eat, have a roof over your head, and to do a few other things with your family. What's that number? Because that's what we need to aim for. You might be earning £2,500, £3,000 a month in your salary, but I think if we're honest, you've probably lived to that salary. You don't really need the full whack. And if you do, or you're overspending, well, you've got yourself in a tricky financial situation. We need to reduce the expenses and we just need to replace the salary itself. Now, instructions on how to maximize and get the most out of this video. So please listen in. Step number one, I want you to save and bookmark this video so that if it ever becomes unlisted in the future, you will still have access to it and then you can go back and watch it. It's good to also consume this once or twice or 3 times to let all the information sink in. That's what a lot of people did in my previous full course tutorial video, and that way you really maximize the information which you can then go ahead and use. Step number 2, please treat the comments section like your own community. Brainstorm with me where I'll reply to all of you, other people, share your experiences, and again, build on your network because there's so many people that are on the same journey as you and your comment might help someone else. Step number 3, please do use all the free guides that I offer in the description of this video. And also please do give it a like and a comment. That means a lot to me. And finally, step number 4, if you haven't already, Joe's gonna pop it above my head now. Go check out my first course tutorial, which is Quit Your Job and Build an Online Business. Now you can watch that at the beginning of this video, or you can watch it at the end of this video where you'll have that option. But whatever you do, make sure you watch both course tutorials. They complement each other so well. It will teach you how to build a business and what business you should actually be building so that you save time and possibly costly mistakes. Now let's run through the index of this video. Business mindset and reality check, the 3 types of business models, how to assess an online business, how to validate a business idea, how many sales to quit your job, business models to start, you will need a personal brand, and there is failure before success. Business is 80% mindset and 20% application. I truly believe that. To be able to overcome imposter syndrome, self-doubt, lack of belief, judgment, no confidence, maybe your self-esteem's pretty low. Most of this is mindset, to be able to keep going when times get really tough and when there doesn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel. That's like the journey of business. You have to propel yourself all the time. It's self-inspiring, self-motivating. It's a hard game to get involved with, but it's possible. And it is important that I cover off the mindset stuff and the do's and don'ts before we get into the business stuff. Now, I want you, believe it or not, and this sounds crazy, to actually stop watching multi-millionaires and billionaires on YouTube videos and podcasts. But why do I say that? And I do have a reason for that. You are so far away from earning hundreds of thousands, millions of pounds per month or per annum. So there's almost no point at this stage of listening to those types of people. It can actually have a negative effect on you because you start comparing yourself as someone who just needs to replace their salary to someone who's earning tens of millions a year. You can't compare. You are nowhere near them. So you only need to replace your salary. So you actually don't benefit from listening to someone who's sitting on hundreds of millions or just millions or whatever it might be, sitting on a podcast telling you everything they've learned and everything that they've done because they're still so far away and their outlook on life is very different to where you're at. You would actually benefit far more from listening and watching someone who's only 5 steps ahead, who has just done their first year consistently of doing £5,000 a month. That is going to benefit you. It's going to be far more relatable and it's going to feel tangible and realistic for you. And you're not going to be demotivated before you've even started. It's not that I'm against listening to super successful people because I love to listen to those, but I know when to and when not to, because I know it can also have a damaging effect on my mindset if I'm watching someone who's too far away from me. And I just want you to be super aware of that if you feel it's impossible, it might be because you're consuming the wrong type of information/educational content. It's also important at this point to avoid conflict of information. You're probably following people on social media now and you're listening to a lot of people. And what happens is when you listen to too many business influencers, they will have conflict of information. One person's telling you this, the other person's telling you that, you're in the middle and you feel confused. You don't know what to focus on, you don't know where to put your time, effort and energy. And it's because you're listening to too many people. It's like when you get a mentor or a coach, you stick with that person. You don't go and get a mentor or join some form of a membership or program or whatever it is to better yourself, and then you go and take on someone else's and then you listen to someone else. You then have conflicts of information and then nothing happens and you start questioning who's right. So it's just really important to be aware of all of these things because they do have a big impact when added all up together to your progress being made or not. So again, maybe just think about who you're listening to, and it's fine to block and remove and say, I don't want this popping up on my feed anymore, unsubscribe, unfollow, whatever it might be. For the short to medium term, that will do you a lot of good. There's massive benefits in that. And also it avoids unnecessary fear and comparison and, sort of seeking validation for yourself. You avoid all of that. Now, the next part is ignoring social media marketing adverts. This one is incredibly damaging for many people. I have seen this also many times where someone has started a business, it's failed because they started that business based on an advert that popped up and they thought, well, that's what everyone else is doing, I must do that as well. No, you build a business off of, actually doing research, going out to the market and finding a solution or a product or a service that people actually want, getting confirmation, getting a waiting list put together, asking people, understanding that you actually have a solution to a problem and that you feel somewhat passionate about it and you have experience and knowledge in the thing that you're building. Not because you saw a social media advert pop up and it seems to be what everyone else is doing and numbers are being flashed at you of, I made this amount and this is what it can generate you in 30 or 90 days. You don't build a business because of a social media advert that keeps popping up in your face. Remember, some of these business influencers who have built their business, and done very well, they have a big ad spend that they can start pumping out adverts to try and get you into the business model that they've built, that they enjoyed perhaps, and you're going into it, but you don't really love it. So you're not going to push through the hard times. And I think that's something we need to remember. There are hard times on the way. So when you struggle in business, when you're on the low days, when it's getting ugly, do you love that business model so much that you will carry on pushing through whether you're being paid, whether it all looks like it's, flipped on its head? Are you still going to carry on with that business? Or maybe, like many do, you go, oh, stuff this, it's too hard. You didn't really love it anyway. So be very mindful of consuming social media marketing adverts. Now, focus, the acronym, finish one course until successful. So many people flitter. And when you flitter, you go from one thing to the other, to the next thing, you lose credibility, your reputation isn't good, because you're that person that starts something for 3 months, doesn't really work out, you're on to the next thing, you're never really stuck with it, you're on to the next thing, and then you get the reputation of someone who just cannot focus. You cannot finish one course until successful. Again, same respect with getting a coach/mentor. Stick with one person, go all in, commit to them, do everything that they say, rather than being like, oh, well, I'll learn from this person, learn from that person, and now I'm learning from someone else. You know, shelf development, they call it, don't they? Where you just learn a bit of everything, but you do nothing with any of it. I call it the librarian. You know a lot, but you've done nothing. You've just hoarded the information. Now, debunking overnight success. The reality is, my good people, it takes years, not weeks, not months, but years. This is one of the worst questions, and my biggest frustration, I was asked it as well most recently, is that I get asked, and I'm sure you've asked this yourself, bet you have, if I start something, how long will it take me to be successful or make money? And we all want to know that, because what we want is we want reassurances. Well, there are no guarantees in entrepreneurship and business, so you can ask that question, but you're not going to get an answer. How long's a piece of string? You've either got what it takes or you don't, and you're in it for the long run, or you're not. But there's no shortcuts, there's no unicorn moments, and if you think it's like winning the lottery, well, you know, just go play the lottery, okay? Because business is not like the lottery at all. It's consistency, discipline, sacrifices, showing up, resilience, self-drive, self-belief, patience, you know, all of this. And what I'm going to do now is, Joe's just going to pop it up on the screen, is I'm going to go through my timeline where I'm going to show you some of my successes and actually how long it's taken me to do things to this point of my life. So let's pop that up on the screen now. Okay, my time invested. It took me 3 failed business models to finally stick with the one that replaced my income. I started an eBay business where I was buying and selling clothes. I then started a wedding catering business where we converted teardrop trailers into like gin, coffee and catering sort of mobile bar. And then I went into property with an old business partner between the years of 2011 and 2014. Some of it worked. Money was made, money was also lost, a lot of lessons were learned, and you know, rejection and failure was all a part of that process, and that kind of built up my resilience, certainly to business at an early age. End of 2014, I then went on to randomly found my finance company, which replaced my job by 2020. That's still active today. It took me 3 years to make my first 6 figures. It took me 6 years to break free from my 9-to-5 job. And it took me 5.5 years and over 1,000 videos on YouTube to finally grow and hit decent views and earn a decent income. It took me 6 months of posting 5 times a day and over 900 posts until I blew up on TikTok. It took me over 18 months to start making more than 5K consistently a month from TikTok. It took me a total of 4 years and over 2,000 combined posts to finally blow up on Instagram. It took us over 20 months to hit 6 figures in our events company, and it took 2.5 years to hit 6 figures in my education business. So I hope that offered some clarity on how long things actually take to get off the ground and get to a stage that you can consider somewhat successful, you know, however that's defined. But it takes years, not months. I was naive once upon a time where I used to think, oh, you know, I'm going to do it in 6-12 months. It just doesn't pan out like that. You know, like the average millionaire in the UK is around about 42 years old that sort of started their business journey in their 20s. You know, so you should be in this for a decade at least and sticking with it. The other thing I do want to say though, I started at a time where I didn't have TikTok live streams, I didn't have a lot of YouTube information, I didn't listen to podcasts. Yes, I had Audible and books, and I was physically networking in London, but I didn't have the accessibility that you do right now and video like course tutorials that you're watching now. I didn't have this. So could your journey be slightly quicker than mine? Yeah, for sure, it could, but it's still gonna take years. There's no questioning that. You have to be in it for the long run. Now, important things for you to accept before we get into the crunks of building a business and the different models and stuff like that. You need to accept the following. There are no guarantees in business and entrepreneurship. If you wouldn't start this journey and do everything from now for free for the next 2 to 3 years, don't start at all. It's not about making 10K in business, it's about replacing your salary to provide time freedom where you can work from wherever you want. If you don't take any risks, you risk it all. Entrepreneurs will risk their own money for freedom. Employees will exchange their time for a wage. You need to fear something so deeply and have a consequence that is so scary that it forces you to do this and be successful. I was fearful of running out and having no money. I was fearful of passing on the struggle to my son and not having freedom with my family. The consequence was, or would have been, I knew that I would get to the end of my life and look back and know that I wasted it, that I didn't do enough, that I didn't push myself, that I didn't step outside my comfort zone when I know that the opportunity is literally at my fingertips. And I would have classed myself as lazy, I would have been regretful, bitter, and probably blamed people around me to why I didn't do it. I did not want to be that guy. But most importantly, I had the fear of being trapped, having no money, living on someone else's terms, building someone else's dreams. It scared the living daylights out of me. I was also sick of driving a car that was banged up and barely afford to put any fuel in. So if you are comfortable, you won't do this. You need to put yourself in a very scary and fearful situation which will drive you to build the business to be a success. If you come from comfort, you got no chance. That's just my personal opinion. Now, haters will hate. You can't escape it. People will say, well, building an online business, you're a scammer, it's a waste of time, they'll judge you, they'll try and pull you down because people don't want you to do better than them. That's just the truth. As you build a business, people will poke their heads out the parapet and they will try to pull you back like a rubber band. They do not want you to do well, which is why a bus has 60 seats and a sports car only has 2 seats. There are levels to success and your social circle will reflect that the further and further you go on your journey to building something really successful. That's just the way it is. Haters will hate. And just finally on that is that, I find it frustrating when people who are online building businesses, selling services and products, get called scammers when actually they're coming from a place of experience, knowledge, and actually trying to help people, but they don't realize we are in the digital world. All businesses now will have a personal brand. They will have courses, memberships, programs. There have been scammers in banks, call centers, in physical shops, car showrooms. There are scammers, wheelers and dealers everywhere. But the older generation and the doubters and the haters don't like to see you doing well remotely, online, high profit margins, replacing your job. They don't like it, so they brand you as a scammer and they hate on you. Ignore all of them. Now, before we jump into the 3 business models, I really want you to be open-minded to what you can achieve against your natural resources, your experiences, your passions. I want you to think, as we go through some of the business models and we assess them, what do you think that you would be really good at, that you could sink your teeth into for the next 6 to 12 months? Because this is going to really break down what type of business models there are that you could do, how much money that they can make, and then actually how simplistic it is just to replace your job. So start thinking about the things as we go through these next couple of PowerPoints about what you could do. So the 3 types of business models. We have physical and online, non-physical and all online. Now physical could be property, retail shops, cafes, restaurants, barbers, salons, etc. Right, you get the gist. Now the issue and the bottleneck now with a lot of these they are high startup costs that might require loans and potentially investors. So complications and other things that we just don't really want or even need to have within our online business, right? So that's a complication we can just avoid. There's rent, there might be the property purchase, the freehold, the leases. Then there's utilities, equipment, stock, so upfront purchases. There's staff wages, so you've got all that as an expenditure. Insurance and licenses, branding, signage, interior fit out, security and vehicles. There are a lot of costs to having physical business. And as we see, the high streets are dying, right? And the weaknesses are they're radius-based customers. So it's foot traffic around that area to and from. You can only serve a certain amount of people. So a cafe, for example, it's radius-based business. You don't typically know of anyone that would travel 15 miles just to go and get a cortado, right? It's based on the people that are around that area. And even with distribution, and on to the next point, you are geographically tied. If you have physical products in that store, you can only distribute to a certain radius depending on the type of product or service that you have. That makes for tight profit and loss margins. So you're buying products, or equipment, and then you have to sell at a certain point in order to make your profit, but you have tight margins. Property is a prime example of tight margins. I mean, I know many people in property who are really struggling right now. Customer complaints, missed out a T there. Reviews, so that can affect your business. If you can have people come into the store or come in and experience something and then leave you a bad review, that can really affect a physical type of business. Physical damages to the actual shop, the warehouse, the office, wherever you've got. So then there's repairs needed, again, another expense, or claiming on insurances. Staff training and turnover, pandemic threat, because look what happened in the pandemic. Physical businesses had to shut, couldn't touch, couldn't go out, couldn't do anything. Slow scalability and a lot of third-party involvement, like property, solicitors, legals, all these kind of things. Your scalability is based on someone else's decision being made, and that's incredibly slow and painful and frustrating. Now, physical and online hybrid, Amazon dropshipping, gym PTs, retail stores, online dispatch, etc. Now, the startup costs are somewhat moderate. You need a physical space and potentially a setup, so smaller or shared units often used for those types of businesses. So Amazon dropshipping, if you're physically ordering those products in, you're packing them, you're wrapping them, you're putting them on the pallet, you're then distributing them. Again, a lot of things involved, complications that can be had. Then there's basic e-commerce website setup or a booking system, which can be quite costly, especially if you have a unit that you're renting as well. Marketing for both online and online audiences. Again, you might have staff because of distribution or packing or things that need to be done in a location. And then stock or service tools. You might physically need things. You might need printers. You might need computers for staff. You might need company phones, vehicles, whatever it might be, or certain stock or equipment for whatever it might be. Again, it's another expense. And the weaknesses of having this sort of physical online hybrid is high to moderate monthly expenditure, moderate profit and loss margins, again, customer complaints without the T, standard, reviews, you can have bad reviews, and again, that can really affect a company like Amazon dropshipping. Physical damages and repairs, again, staff training, turnover, pandemic threat, slow to medium scalability now, because you have that part online. Third-party involvement and supplier issues. I know many people who have built this sort of Amazon e-com business, and they've ordered from China, and China have just lost a shipment in the sea, or it's just not turned up, but they've dropped like 10, 20, 30,000 in upfront stock costs. It's mad. And then there's online. This is where the beauty is. This is where my full attention has always been, and it will always be going forward. And I think people are waking up to this. So coaching, programs, consulting, content creator, tech, e-learning, sales, high-ticket commissions, agencies, marketing, memberships, print on demand, etc. Now, the awesome thing about this is startup costs, low to zero. I've started 3 companies now with zero money. Website and domain and CRM system, cost you a couple of £100 max. Email software, social media handles for free, social media marketing and equipment, ring lights, cameras. You might be in for £400, £500, £600, £700 max, right? Which is very, very low commitment in terms of financials, actually starting a business. Entry requirements, just your time and effort. Strengths, no overheads, fast scalability, high profit margins, because you've barely got any expenditure. Pandemic proof, because you can still continue growing, serving, creating content if everything was to shut down and you were to work from your home. Free social media marketing, no staff needed, automation and AI integration. Now the comparison here, just so it's nice and clear, we've got the model, the setup cost, the flexibility and speed to launch. Physical might churn out 10 to 100 grand of startup capital. That's, even buying a physical franchise. Someone did a review on buying a Subway franchise and it would cost something like 120 grand. Flexibility, low, speed to launch, very slow. Then you've got your physical online, might cost you 2 to 15,000 in upfront costs. Stock, staff, software, whatever else it might be, a unit of rent that you're hiring out, whatever it might be. Medium in flexibility, speed to launch, moderate. Online, 0 to 2,000, great, that's pretty much spot on. Flexibility, high, absolutely. And speed to launch, fast. Business assessing. Well, we want to be able to scale fast, keep overheads low, stay pandemic proof, maintain high profit margins, use free social media marketing, and thrive in any economic condition, right? That's what we all want. So online businesses, this is like a resilience checklist that I've put together. You want to ask yourself these questions when you're thinking about building your business. The business model: can this business be run fully online without needing any physical presence? Really important. Can you operate from anywhere? Should be a yes. Does this model offer digital products and services? Can you build out a program, a course, a membership, an e-learning platform? Digital products and services are an absolute game changer with a business model because it's unlimited amounts of what you can sell. You don't need stock and you don't need to ship them, physically. There's no costs there. Can it be sold 24/7? My gosh, the answer should be yes. You want to be able to sell to anyone, anywhere, at any given moment, and then build in automation, through the sales funnels and the checkout. Will people still need or want this in a recession or a pandemic? And this is what I want you to use as the benchmark. If we do hit another pandemic, can you still operate and can you still sell? Profitability, you do want margins that are 70% consistently, if not more. Are your monthly expenses low? Well, the answer should always be yes. You shouldn't really need to be paying too much for an online business. Do I avoid relying on paid ads to get customers? Well, this is something that I preach about, is that I've done over 360 million views organically with no paid ads, again through free social media. Scalability, can you serve as many people as possible without any extra costs? Again, through smart social media content creation. Can you build systems and automation to help you scale? Is your offer designed in tiers or packages to maximize revenue? Again, going from like low ticket, medium, high ticket, then maybe membership, bringing it like full circle. And then marketing, can you use all the platforms in order to drive traffic? Can you consistently post, which then builds trust in your reputation? The answer should be yes, of course. Do you have a lead magnet you can build into all your social media, your emails, your website? Can you sell without sounding pushy? I talk about this all the time. I never sell, but I sell. You don't actually sell openly now. Resilience and risk. Would my business still run if there was a full lockdown tomorrow? Has to be yes. Am I able to build an email list or a community that I own? This is really important. Database is key to a business valuation, but also scalability. You must build a database because then it becomes controlled traffic. That's really important. Not many physical shops will then say, oh, by the way, could you just write down your email? Online, there's always a fair exchange. If you want my freebie, you want my lead magnet, let me find out some details about you. That's building your database. Have you planned for slow months with digital products? Again, this is really good about reoccurring revenue and being able to sell something multiple times, is that depending on the ticket price of your products, and you can have many, it will always cover you for one part of the business online being slower than the other. And again, because you've got such low expenditure, it's not going to affect your outgoings. Like, you're not going to be crippled financially by building an online business. Unlike opening up a shop, you've got all these down payments, all these monthly expenditures that still need to be paid regardless of whether the business is making money or not. And again, am I learning skills that increase my long-term value? Copywriting, sales, editing. You do all that with online business. Solo-friendly operations. You can hire anyone, freelance, they can all be remote. I have an entire remote team. Are my tools and software easy to manage? I use these software here, Stripe, ConvertKit, Canva, ChatGPT, all these different things, Wix, Zapier, ClickFunnels, all these things that we have available. Super easy to manage once you've set up automation. And do I have a simply weekly routine to keep it growing without burnout? This is what I love, is that everything that I do with the online world is built around the life that I designed. So there we go, the 3 different types of business models. And I hope at the end of that, you now see that we should be focusing on the online business world because of all the benefits and the low entry requirements that it needs to get started and then scale fast. What I do want to say as well at this point, if you are enjoying the video, please do hit like and subscribe. Again, leave a comment, let me know what you're getting from it or what you might be focusing on going forward when it comes to building your online business. But now it's time to question, how do we validate a business model? How do we actually know if we should start working towards it and build upon it? Well, you ask questions to the market. It's all very good you having a business idea that you like, but other people might not want it. So, you can do reverse engineering, you can do your research, but the most important thing that we start doing in the beginning is we ask people questions. Friends, family, do street interviews, go out there with a clipboard and ask people the same question. If there was a company or someone was to solve this problem, would you use that? And if so, how much would you pay for that? It's about getting data to confirm that your idea is worth building upon. Because again, I think a downfall for many people is that they're sitting there late at night or they're on the treadmill at the gym and you're coming up with business ideas and you think, this is going to be the next big thing. But all you've got to do is a bit of research online and someone's already done it. Or it's not really wanted. Or on Google and YouTube and TikTok, if you use it as an SEO platform and start searching, you might find that no one's actually looking for that thing that you're thinking about of creating or building. So you really do need to ask enough questions on all the social media handles, do enough polls, physically ask people, and then do enough research to understand if your passion, your experience, your knowledge, your business idea is actually worth building. And if you feel that you've validated it enough and you've had 100 or 150 people say, yes, I would definitely have that, that is definitely a solution to my problem, then go all in and try and build it out and stick with it over a consistent period of time without giving up. So the next stage is that we actually look at how many sales per business model you need to make to be able to go up to your boss and fire them. And I just want to show you that it's totally possible. When you actually get started on business, you can make great online digital passive income sales. And Joe, if you can just pop it either side of my head, these are some of my recent sales which have gone into my Stripe, which I'm due to be paid out as of recording this. And I think it's something like 4 grand in the last 5 days that I've made. It's possible. The online world is where it's at. And you need to understand how many sales do you need to make in the business model that you might be up for pursuing. So let's jump into it. Okay, here we go. This is the juicy part because I want you to be looking at this like I do. This is all you need to do in order to replace an average job, and I've used the example of 2K here. So the business models that I like, I've just gone with content creator, online courses, online coaching or consulting, paid memberships, agency, freelance services. And this is what you need to charge per deal or per product, per service, and how many of them in order just to replace your job. It's so simplistic. So let's look at the top one. Content creator, £250 per deal for doing a branded 60-second video, let's say on TikTok or Instagram. You need to do 2 deals a week. Then you've replaced your job. That doesn't seem so hard, does it? Of course it's going to require you to build an audience, of course. And you need to be consistent and have a personal brand. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the brand deals that I do in a minute, and that will blow your mind. Online courses. Sell a program or a course, where you've shared some high quality information and your experiences for other people to buy. Price it at £99, do 6 sales a week. All can be automated and people can buy wherever, whenever they want. I mean, come on, this is so exciting. Online coaching. Maybe you're a PT, maybe you're in finance, maybe you're in lifestyle, maybe in mindset, maybe in, whatever form of coaching. Charge £250 a session. That's what I charge for a one-to-one. I charge £250 for an hour call, and I have 4 of them every single week, and I have done for like the last 2.5 years. Do 2 sessions a week. Again, you need to build trust, deliver on value, deliver on the promise, showcase those testimonials back to the market. Your one-to-ones will always come in. Paid memberships. I also have a paid membership. Base it at £30 a month. 67 members. Reoccurring revenue. You can start forecasting. You can start scaling. 0 startup costs. Start it on WhatsApp. Are you good at bringing people together and inspiring them, motivating them to go on to achieve a better life? Bringing people into a network where their lives are truly impacted. A paid membership group can be on anything and everything. Agency, freelance, maybe you're an editor, just like my man Joe who's doing this video. He's working from the comfort of his own home now. He left his job. He's been working with me for over a year now. He's racking in over 6k a month. My editor who's doing this video, sitting at home, does what he wants. So many great case studies of people that have worked with me and gone on to be able to do all this great stuff. And it's so inspiring, right? It's possible. £500 per client. Do 1 project, per week. Again, you need to have that higher skill set, but it's possible. But look at this. Look how simplistic it is to actually replace your average 2K a month. I'm going to give you some examples. These are just some of the people that I've helped personally who have gone from a full-time job to earning over 3-4K a month. You know, I've got Ryan, he does over 2K. We've got Holly, who does up to 2K per day. We've got James, who actually now in 3 months has done over £45,000 in gross revenue. But in 16 days, he'd generated nearly 4K. Chris, he does consistently now above 6K. But as you can see there, he was between 5.4 to 5.6 in his marketing PPC agency. You know, Chris broke out, Holly broke out, Ryan broke out. On the bottom right-hand side here, these are just some of my recent Stripe payouts. Joe, you know, like I said, he's more than... Joe will be 10K this year in 2025. It's possible, people. Everything is downstream from social media. You know, how do you get these clients that are going to replace your job? Well, you need to have a personal brand. You need to get your face and your voice out there. This is my TikTok. I do 14 million views in 60 days. Instagram, in the last 90 days, I've done over 20 million views. My YouTube, over 190,000 views in the last 28 days. Everything's downstream. And let's have a look at some of the average conversion. So social media views, right? If you base it on 100,000 views, 10% of that, 20%, so 10% is obviously 10,000. Breaking down into 20% being prospect, 2,000. Leads, you know, opt-ins, whatever it might be, someone who's clicked on your funnel, lead magnet, questionnaire forms, 1,000. The booking calls, the discovery, the appointment, whatever it might be, gone down to 300. Your sales, 20% of that, 60 sales, all starting from 100,000 views. There's always average conversions in views as long as your content is value-driven, informational, and you have a funnel of some sort with lead magnets ready to go. You will have an average conversion based on the numbers or based on the amount of people that you impact and reach. That's just the way it works. But look, just to touch on like content creator, because I think this is one of the most accessible, still underrated ways of building an online business. Personal branding, let me remind all of you, is an online business. So I've been featured in many different papers because of my personal brand, which has then brought me more brand deals. So these are some of the people that I'm partnered with and that I've worked with in sponsor capacity and brand deals. And now brand deals, because of my TikTok and my YouTube and my Instagram, they will pay me between £2,000 to £5,000 per 60-second video. You could do that too. I am no genius. I am no rocket scientist. I have just applied the basics in what we spoke about at the beginning of the mindset and the reality check. I've just done the basics. But how many brand deals do you need to do working with big companies to replace your job? So online business models that are proven, let's talk about a few of these. And I've chosen some of my favorites. Print on demand, because we now have a print on demand clothing company, which is great. All automated, by the way. Agencies of all different kinds, content agencies, management agencies, recruitment, editing agencies, you know, you name it. I mean, there's an agency for everything now, but again, all starting from home. Paid memberships are just fantastic. You know, I'm very passionate about my paid membership. I've got fantastic results, but I'm excited to scale it. Content creation, online franchises. This one's interesting for me because we're literally franchising our events company now online and in person. So this is something that we're coming to realize there's pretty much no costs for us to start franchising our events company. Raising private finance is what allowed me to get out of my job. You can raise finance and literally charge anywhere from 12 to 20% on the finance that you raise. Video editing and marketing, obviously very highly paid. Both my editors have made, you know, fantastic amounts of money. High ticket sales services and online coaching and consulting. All fantastic, all online, zero to minimal startup costs and very, very profitable. So what platform does what, you know, when you're building these online businesses? Well, YouTube is authority, credibility, high percentage of quality targeted leads. TikTok is fast and wide brand awareness, instant viewer connection and high amounts of data collecting. Instagram validates your business and brand. It builds authority and shows the viewers the behind the scenes, more interaction and greater outreach and lead generating possibilities, e.g. the DMs. Facebook, greater for outreach, joining customer groups, and creating communities for your own customer pond. You have to market correctly. So any business that you have, you need to know where your customers are, where do they actually hang out, what platforms, who are your customers and what are they searching for? Does your social following even know what you do? This is where a lot of untapped sales aren't yet made. Most of your social media following, they don't actually know what you do because one, maybe you've not been clear enough, or it's not stated in the bio, or you're not outreaching to these people and nurturing them in the comments and the DMs. Now, is it clear to the viewers that they can actually work with you? You might actually not have anything that says, look, I'm available for work. I am an expert in this industry, which is why you're not getting any sales. And are you following up with people? Always sell the solution. This is really important to making sales. People buy outcomes, not features, and they don't care about what your product does. They care about what it does for them. Remember that. I always say to people anytime I have a discovery call with them, you might be sitting there thinking, does this work for you? And then I address that my solutions always work for that individual. Solutions tap into emotion. So a solution speaks directly to the pain points, and it's important you understand this, or the desires, the dopamine hit. That's what moves people to act. You do need to spark someone's dopamine and inspire them to realize that you have a solution to their pain. 3, it positions you as valuable. You're not just selling a thing, you are solving the problem. So again, I talk about this all the time. You have to become the authority person in your industry. Again, that builds trust. And then finally, it's easier to justify price. When buyers understand that the transformation they're getting, e.g. going from point A to the new point, the better point B, they don't see it as a price, they see it as an investment, not a cost. And again, you need to remind them of that. And then how is a business built online? Well, market demand, research and validate, define your product or service, again, create an MVP or the lead magnet, begin your brand awareness, business infrastructure, sales and marketing strategies, processes and outsourcing, lead generation systems, nurture and upsell clients, feedback, testimonials to the market to bring in the next lot of interest. Finally, well, no, this might not be finally, but sustainability and scalability. I think we've got a couple more slides. Funnels, lead magnet, CRM database, really important. AI automation and systems and processes and VSOPs, again, allowing you to scale and then step away from the business. So you're not working in the business, you're working on it. Try and build a freelance remote team if you need one. I think it's really important to offset and outsource your weaknesses. And then again, client testimonials, market feedback, which shows proof of concept that you can do the thing that you're talking about. And then when to quit a job. You know, when would you actually quit once you've got a business up and running? Well, again, when it's up and running and it's actually working and you validated the business, that's a tick box. Your personal brand and your social media marketing is up and running. You have an emergency fund of at least 6 to 12 months, all expenses, and you have business funds ready to go to reinvest into the business. Clients onboarded, reoccurring revenue to at least 80% of your salaried income, and your business network built. That's really important because you will need the support. And this is an important one. When building an online business and you're not taking out bank loans and there's not lots of expenses, you will be wearing all the hats. You will be the employee, the creator, the editor, the founder, the individual, the family man. There I am, Aaron, just the person that I am, the speaker, the salesman. You wear all the hats in the beginning, and you just have to bite that bullet, and you're going to be doing that for some time. So there we go. We've broken down how many sales you need to make per business model in order to replace your income and walk away from your 40-hour-week job. And it's not that hard, really, is it? Just to focus on that. And everything is downstream from social media marketing, getting your face out there, your voice. But I do have to reiterate, it is so important that you build a personal brand because companies, sponsors, brands, they want to work with you, the person. They want to see the whites of your eyes. They want to hear your voice, as do customers. It's all about building a community, trust, and your reputation. And it's very hard to do that in any business model if you're not willing to put your face out there. So please bear in mind, and I know it's stepping outside some of your comfort zones in order to put your face in front of a camera like this, but you need to do it, otherwise the competition is too fierce. And there'll be someone else out there in the same business model as you, but they're willing to put their face out there, so they might win that business. Okay, so building a personal brand is so important, and everything is downstream from there. Now I want to go over 4 business hacks for you. Number 1, relocate if possible. Surround yourself with the people that are going to move the progression needle so much faster. If you're single, you've got no ties, no children, I would say, if you can, move to Dubai. Why? Because tax benefits, the network, the opportunity. You know, I have many friends that have moved to Dubai, and it is a game changer for people. Go where the biggest opportunity is. Relocate if necessary, but also change your network to the right people. It's quite mind-blowing that when you start a business and you go into entrepreneurship, the world is so generous. It really is. It's not dog eat dog, as some people like to label it as. The workplace is dog eat dog. Business is actually all about collaboration. The more you help people, the more you all grow, the more that comes back. So if you can start to be around people who are very successful and driven and ambitious, they will naturally pull you up to a level that you weren't yet at because you were around the wrong people. So please do consider relocating, change your network, ask questions, go to where you need to go to have new doors open, like create your own opportunity and take massive risk as well. I think that just on the back end of that, take massive risk. If you are young, between the age of 18 and 25, and you've got no dependents, you're living at home, take all the risks in the world and just, you know, create your opportunities. Don't wait for it. Don't wish, want and wait. Go out and get it. You want to work with a brand? Go and get them. Go and show them why they should work with you. Go and show your new client why you're the best in the business. If you're slightly older and you have a family and, you know, you're juggling things, well, you just need to be more calculated with decisions and more calculated with your money. And if you're slightly older and you're in your 40s, your runway is just slightly shorter. It's not impossible to change your life and build a business, but your runway is shorter, so time is of the essence. So you have to be very mindful and calculated on who you give your time to, who you listen to, what you do in order to respect your time to move your progression needle as much as possible in the scenario or the situation or the circumstances that you find yourself in. The game of poker is never over. We all have to play a different game and we have to bluff, you know, stuff like that. Business hack number 2. Get a mentor to speed up your time and save yourself costly mistakes. I now have a mentor full time, and once upon a time I used to think, do I need a mentor? I kind of just figure this stuff out on my own. Made a lot of mistakes, a lot of costly ones as well, and I was kind of navigating this business world, unsure of what to focus on first, what to do, how to jump over certain hurdles. When I'd hit a bottleneck, I'd kind of procrastinate on not really knowing what to do. So if you can afford one, or don't even see it as can you afford one, try to see it as you are just investing in your education, but you're speeding it up. There's loads of free information out there. This video is for free, for sure. But if you do get to a point where you're like, I need to take things seriously and I really want to double down and I don't want this to take forever, then I actually do recommend a mentor. Once upon a time, I'd have probably said no, but where I'm at in my journey, yes, I actually think it's a very good thing. Business hack number 3, keep stealing blueprints. There are success blueprints everywhere. Go absorb all of them, research, and then all you do is you reverse engineer everything, put your twist on it, build it into your business. If someone is doing something which is very successful, very similar to your niche or industry, find out everything about them. Sign up to their mailing list, go on their website, go on their social media, click on all their links, go on their funnels, book a discovery call, absorb, just take everything that's good about them. Look for their good reviews, find out their bad reviews, don't do any of their bad reviews, copy the good ones and double down on that. Success blueprints are everywhere. And then business hack number 4 is create a sales dashboard which you can visually view and then be inspired to go and make those sales. Just like what we looked at earlier, that was a type of sales dashboard. I really recommend, whether it's working with brands, making sales for your products or services, or memberships or programs, courses, consulting, coaching, whatever it might be, create an Excel or a Keynote, whatever it is you use, create a dashboard, look at it every day and say to yourself, I need to create 10 pieces of content to generate 5,000 views every day or every other day or 100,000 views a week in order to get the conversion of the sales to hit my sales targets. And I need to do that time and time and time again until I get to the stage that I've made enough sales to replace my job, and validate it. Never leave your job until you've made consistent sales for like at least 4 or 5 months consistently, and that you've also got emergency funds ready to go. Prove your own model and that you can be disciplined enough to drive yourself to get up and be the salesperson. Sell, 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 get cash into the business, do that for 4 or 5 months, and then you'll probably be in a position where you can go, I can probably fire my boss right now. Now, final notes. Replacing your job and building a business will be a journey of failure, rejection, and requires the following from all of you. Discipline, consistency, sacrifices, resilience, grit, determinations, self-drive, and that is only to name a few. But replacing your 9-to-5 job by building an online business is very possible, because we're not looking for the £10,000 a month. We are looking for the £2,000, £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 a month. That's our goal. And we live a really lean lifestyle, reduce all your expenses, and go through several years of living frugally. Sit down with your partner, because your partner has to be on board when you're building a business. Have a chat and say, look, I don't want to work for someone else for the next 45 years. I don't want to retire and enjoy the golden years at 70 years old. I want us to have a great life. But for the next 2, 3, 4 years, I'm going to have to be a different type of beast. I'm going to have to do things now so our children don't suffer in the future, and that we can live a life by design, one that's not assigned to us. I'm going to make a plan so we're not given a plan, and I'm going to create our own market rather than us being put into a market. Again, you work a full-time job, you build your business on the side. The weekends, the bank holidays, the Christmas Eve, the Boxing Day, put in the time and effort. I did it in my 20s and I'm very grateful I did. I want you to look at this finally as a journey from finishing this video and my other full course tutorial. Look at this as a starting journey between 1 and 3 years. If you do everything that I've said and you really adopt all the information and take it and go and apply it from both of the videos, set yourself a 1 to 3 years target of getting out of your job, and I want to know about it in the comments. I do hope you enjoyed this video. I will be doing a series of these videos, so again, you can let me know in the comments what you would like to see maybe in a part 3. And again, if you haven't seen the full course tutorial on quitting your job and actually building the online business, go check that out. And until next time, I am rooting for every single one of you, and I really want you to do well, because life is for living and making memories, not serving and building someone else's dreams for 50 years of your life. It's backwards, we've been lied to, and that's why I'm doing these videos, and employers will hate it, because you should be coming away looking at that going, I've only got to make that amount of money, that amount of sales, and I can literally leave my job and work from home. It's totally possible. I did it, and like I said, I'm no genius. I just did the fundamentals and I followed the blueprint. Until next time, I'll see you all very soon.